Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right?
Oh!
The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
and he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
And that is what we are. Hello, I'm Kenny Rogers here with Dolly Parton, otherwise known as Matt Connor and Sterling Holmes. We are islands in the Chiefs preseason stream. Thrilled to be here with another week. We're actually in the aftermath of a game. Sterling, how are you feeling this week, man?
I feel good. I feel great. I feel outstanding. I don't know, man. I feel pretty good. It's a great day outside. The sun is shining. I've been busy. I've been excited. But we have football. I feel bad for some of the injuries I know we're going to get to that happens during training camp. But all in all, I'm very enthused. The Chiefs are Super Bowl champions. They're the favorites to repeat again. Life is damn good.
There are, I believe, if the Chiefs make a Super Bowl run, 23 games that we will end up breaking down at some point. We are 1/23 of the way through, which means a long and good road ahead. Folks, if you're with us, welcome to the Arrowhead Addict Show. We're glad that you're joining us. Always just so glad. We got a lot to get to today. We have recent injuries on the practice front, even from today, actually multiple of those. We've got a preseason loss to the Saints to reflect upon. We're going to do a little buying and selling of Chiefs stock. And of course, there's the must list at the end of every show. But first,
let's talk some betting, baby.
Let's talk
you
some
like
betting.
to bet. I like to bet. We all like to bet. But make sure, first off, you bet responsibly. But attention, all you Chiefs fans out there, if you're looking to play some bets this NFL season, we have the perfect one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. Check out arrowheadaddict.com/bets for a variety of sportsbook promos you can use to maximize your winnings. Each time you sign up for one of our promotions, you're directly supporting the podcast. These promotions are constantly changing. So if you aren't sold on promotion now, come back next week and we may have new offers for you. Head over to arrowheadaddict.com/bets by scanning the QR code on screen, clicking the link in the description, or by typing it in. That's arrowheadaddict.com/bets. Check the episode description for more information.
Boy, love it. By the way, do you have like a betting handle? Is it like Betty Draper or like Betsy Ross or something like that?
Oh, dude, Betsy Ross is a good one.
It's a good one, right?
Oh, it's a good one. Betsy Ross. I don't know, man.
Chester Beddington. I don't know. Anyway, back to the
Hey, Richard, do I have to do every single one of those states that has a gambling problem commit? Because if so, I am gonna hurt myself. Richard, I need a disclosure here. Let me know if I have to go through all of those states. He says, "Nah, too late now. We're good." Okay,
folks,
we're good.
If you're gambling and if you find yourself in a degenerate state within certain states, look up your resources, save enough resources to look up your problem and then solve it. There you go.
I could do it, Richard. I could do it in about 30 seconds. You don't believe me, but I could.
You were just complaining about having to do it, and I was trying to.
It's fine.
Anyway, it's time for
Chiefs talk.
It's time for Read All About It. Our segment to kick off the show. Thanks, Slothy, to our member for the name. Want to give a shout out. First of all, Sterling Holmes. Chiefs training camp is over. Over on Thursday. I feel like we were begging for it to start. It just got here. But folks, you have literally 2 days left to go. And I think one of those is season ticket members only. So I just want to know, are you like, does it feel about right for it to be done? Or are you like me? I'm just like, I can't believe it's already over.
This feels like it's about time. This feels like it's started to drag on just a little bit. I actually am planning on going to training camp on Thursday, so hopefully I'm there the final day. At least I'm planning on it. So I'll go there, keep you guys updated. Any nuances, anything going on. Should be a fun time though. But no, this feels about right. We've already had one preseason game. Once the preseason starts, I don't give a hoot anymore about training camp. So this feels about right.
I just couldn't believe it when I read it. I just thought, wait, is that really, I mean, of course the preseason goes on, but yeah, I was a little surprised. Of course, all those guys who are staying in those white cinder block rooms, I'm sure, including coaches who are like, in their 50s and 60s. I'm sure they're all just ready to like get me the hell back home. That would be my thought. Anyway, in other news today, we got a lot of injuries to go on, but one of the things we wanted to chat here, you and I have talked before, Jody Fortson, and it's a complicated matter, because he's such a great story, but he's got this injury history now. We've talked before about whether to treat him like a Kadarius Toney. I mean, just so injury prone at this point. His season is over. Let me ask you this: what do you make of his season being over as of today? He lands on IR, but also, like, is his Chiefs career over?
First, I feel bad for the guy. 2 of his past 3 years have ended with a trip to the IR. If you're placed on the IR before August 30th at 3 p.m., I believe is the cutoff time Central, your season's done. You can't come back. If you're placed in the IR before then, there's no coming back week 8. Your season is completely over. One, I'm a little shocked that it's a shoulder injury, that it seemingly is the thing that did him in for the entire year. I feel bad for the guy. But I talked about it at least a little bit leading up to this time. I talked about it actually a decent amount last night. I was on the radio and I was saying, hey, I know everyone keeps talking about, Matt Bushman, and it's going to be Blake Bell. Is he the guy who's getting left off as a tight end? I said, it might be Jody Fortson. I love Jody Fortson in the red zone, but you can't be 27 and we're talking about potential. That can't be the case. And that's what we kept doing year after year. His season would end in injury, and then you're still left talking about potential. Eventually, that's not going to cut it. I feel bad for Jody. It's always going to end up probably being a what-if situation with him. I like what Tom Hood said. At least he got a Super Bowl ring while he was here. That's true. Yeah. That ring you can't take away from. I just feel bad for the guy, but no, I'm not completely surprised. This opens up the door for a couple of different options at tight end, but I feel for the guy, for the player, Jody Fortson.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the Chiefs have to not factor him in if he can't be available. At this point, you don't have to carry 4 tight ends anymore. You go with 3. You keep Blake Bell. I have a feeling that this coming off season is going to be the address the future of tight end anyway. So we're bound to find the torchbearer who can hand it, who can receive it from Kelsey at some point. Keep Noah Gray in there for another year or 2 on a rookie deal, and then address the depth there behind Fortson. I will say this: it wouldn't surprise me to see a team like the Chicago Bears, because they know Jody Fortson, because they're still like young and adding whatever. It wouldn't surprise me if Fortson got one more gasp after this, as a low-risk signing from a team like the Bears, maybe Washington or something, if Bieniemy remains there in place. Just look for him to probably get one more last gasp because of his, quote, potential on the other side of the injury. But, yeah, I think we're done in Kansas City. I just can't imagine how that works out.
Yeah, I love these 2 comments. Ronald says, best wishes to Fortson's career next year and onward. Yes, I would agree with you, Ronald. And then Flapjack City says, well, we'll take 8 wide receivers.
I love it. I love it. Speaking of wide receivers, folks, 3 injuries of note coming out of training camp today. Guys were carted off from practice on Tuesday, including, believe it or not, Justin Ross. Justin Ross suffered what Reed called it was a knee or a hamstring area injury. Nico Remigio. Wait, how do you tell it?
Remigio. It's not Remigio.
Right.
Remigio.
Okay, Nico Remigio says that no, anyway, yeah. He had a left we're making fun of that because Nico even took to Twitter to correct people on how to say his name, which I love it. The guy's earned it, and then he's like, "Hey, not only are you saying my name, but say it right, dudes, because I'm forcing my way in." I love it. So anyway, Ross goes down with a knee injury. Nico goes down with a left shoulder dislocation. Ihmir Smith-Marsette goes out with a slight groin strain. The severity of all of these really weren't commented upon. What do you make of the number of injuries and the guys who were injured?
Yeah, it's not ideal. I know we've talked so much about the depth at wide receiver 4, 5, 6, and on, right? We've talked about how much depth there is. Well, that depth got a little slimmer as training camp is coming to an end. I'm not extremely worried. I think Nico Remigio, I feel bad for him personally, and guys like Ihmir Smith-Marsette, guys who are on the bubble, guys who are on the cusp, because this really puts a damper on potentially them making the team. You could also potentially look at it as a stash potential. You could look at it as a, hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If we put you on the practice squad, you might get taken by another team. If you're on the IR, congratulations, you might be on the team next year. That's the way you could potentially be looking at this as well. Justin Ross is more alarming because I do think he actually was in the not just future plans, but this season's plans for Kansas City. The Chiefs were putting him on the podium. The Chiefs were hyping him up on social media.
Yeah.
They don't do that with even with guys like Darius Fountain, right? Did you ever see that going on? Or Maurice French? That wasn't happening. This was a guy who, in my opinion, was making but seriously, this is a guy who I think was making the team.
Yeah,
I don't think it's extremely serious. I think was it Adam Schefter who came out and said it didn't look major on Twitter. That gave me at least a little bit of optimism. We'll see.
Yeah.
End of the day, I'm still pretty excited and comfortable with where the Chiefs wide receivers are. It's again why I think Justin Watson still makes so much sense on this team.
Yeah.
While yes, he's not great. You've heard me make this this metaphor many a time. I'll make it once more. It's like a roller coaster. You have to be this tall to ride. You have to be better than Justin Watson to see the field. Well, Justin Watson's still here. Justin Watson's still on this team. You got to be better than him and available to make this team over him. I feel bad for him personally because he's getting shots on Twitter for no apparent reason. It seems like he's the, a rented mule. He's not, though. He's a fine player. I'm just intrigued to see how this plays out going forward.
Yeah. I hate what this does to – there was such an impressive array of playmakers on Sunday where after the start, the starters were lackluster. We'll talk about this in a little bit too. But like after such a pitiful first half, to see these young guys providing a real spark, to see Remigio, to see Richie James, to see because right now with if Remigio and Smith-Marsette is out, you're talking some real hits to that return competition. It was just a little bit alarming today to see like, oh gosh, there's 3 injuries. This is not all at the same position. It shows you how quickly the picture at one position can change in the National Football League. So yeah, that's so true.
It's why we talk nonstop about depth. It's why depth is so important. It's why it actually matters. NBA, baseball, maybe not quite, but the NFL, it does. The attrition that takes part on your body, not just at the end of the season based on a full 17-game schedule of being in a car accident week in and week out, but also in training camp. I mean, this happens. It's a very, very physical sport. It's why you always want depth.
Yep. Absolutely. Folks, before we get into our buying and selling.
What's with this, folks? Folks, what's going on, folks?
Do I say folks a lot?
Yeah, it's like a Canadian Joe Biden going on that you got rocking a little bit. Hey, folks,
eat it, everybody. Eat it, everybody. I'm part of the Royal Mounties. I'm a Mountie policeman. I don't know. Folks, I'm trying to be a man of the people. Anyway, everyone, if you want to look, if you're able to see Sterling and I right now, behind me is basically a bunch of plain walls, nothing. I haven't gotten off my ass to actually decorate my room. versus Sterling. If you want to go from looking like this to looking like Sterling, that's room to room, or even just me to him, which is a move upward, including facial hair, haircut, the whole deal. All that. If you want to look more like Sterling, folks, check out the AA merch swag shop. Basically going toward Sterling is like getting like swagging the dog. You want to get swagged out? We got you covered. Folks, our merch store is live. You can visit it right now by clicking the link in the description below. We've got everything from shirts to beach towels to I don't know. I don't know if Sterling saves his haircut clippings for fans. Maybe they do, but we have a sweet pint glass as well for you. Look, we got a promo code for this week's listeners. Use code AA15 off. That's 15 off to get 15% off of your order today, and use that because it will expire on Sunday. So rep the podcast, help us out. Show your swaggy P with some of the, I don't even know what swaggy P is, but my mom told me that at one time.
It's Nick Young, former basketball player Nick Young.
I don't even know what that means either. Anyway, but we appreciate all the support as always, whether you're listening, hanging, commenting, or getting swaggy with us. We appreciate it.
I will also say, I can't tell if you're joking or not. You said folks, I believe 3 more times in that read. I couldn't tell if you were doing it as a facetious gesture to me or if you were being completely serious, but I loved it either way. I will also say, guys, we have bumper stickers. Those stickers are really cool, and I'm really mad at myself. I climbed a damn mountain. I am over 12,000 feet in the air climbing this thing. I took a picture, and I go, holy bleep. I forgot to bring the Arrowhead Addict sticker to place it on the sign.
Come on.
You know how bummed I'm not climbing it again. What do you think? I'm an athlete? No, okay. I busted my ass up that mountain. I finally get there. I'm like, yes, we have done it.
Did you use a Sherpa?
No. If you count myself.
Okay. You know what a Sherpa is?
Yes, I know what a Sherpa is.
Not like a Sharpie. I didn't
No.
a pen.
Like a Sherpa, like a hoodie. No, I know what a Sherpa is. I'm not going to Nepal, though, okay, pal? I'm not climbing K2 out here.
You said, hey, pal, with Nepal. It's like, nay, pal. Hey, pal.
Dude, we are so good.
We're so bad at this. Anyway, welcome to Buy and Sell. Folks, I want to we're talking about the stock of certain players. Look, here's the thing. When you're watching preseason games, even earlier, Sterling brought up like a name like Doris Fountain. We've seen like John Baldwin show up strong. We've watched even Jody Fortson, we were talking about earlier. Every preseason comes with a name or two that usually draws us in. We get enamored with a certain player or two. I've got guys that I like on this team right now that maybe other guys would not so much. And what ends up happening is we take a small sample size of something and then try to extrapolate some sort of trajectory or projection of what we think they could become. And that's exactly what the Chiefs are trying to do here. So after watching the game on Sunday, we just thought, let's play around whether you're buying or selling what that player was putting out there on Sunday in terms of the bigger picture. And Sterling, I'd love to start here with you in terms of, let's start with Wanya Morris, because here's a guy who played, look, the second highest snap count on the team was 56% with Matt Bushman. We'll talk Matt Bushman in just a second. But the most, it's 72. In other words, we want him out there second team. We want him out there third team. We want him out there, whatever. They got more use out of Wanya Morris than any other player. And it was like very obvious. What do you like? Are you buying or selling Wanya Morris based upon the Chiefs' push to see him on both sides and in every scenario?
Dude, I'm buying it so hard. I could not be buying anymore. I'm like that crazy guy on the finance show. It's like, buy, okay? I'm all in on Wanya Morris. Right tackle, left tackle, swing tackle, whatever you want to say, I am all in. The versatility he provides might even allow Kansas City to have one less offensive lineman because they can use it both left and right. This to me was an example of they wanted to see him at right and see how he handled it at left as well. That's why he's going to play a lot the rest of the preseason, in my opinion. I think games 2 and 3, because hopefully you don't see him this year. Hopefully it's Donovan Smith, who looked pretty good in one drive, and obviously Juwan and Taylor's here for the long haul. So hopefully you don't see him this year. So the only real game action you will have from Wanya Morris is the preseason. I love giving him action at both the right and left side. I am all in, man. I truthfully believe that he is the left tackle of the future. The more I saw him just in hearing about training camp and just everything coming out, I think he is a left tackle in the future. I think this year it's a emergency purpose, right or left. But I'm all in buying on Wanya Morris.
What do you do then? What's Lucas Niang even doing these days? Like I don't see him. I don't hear him. I don't hear people talking about him. The Chiefs aren't having him speak to media. I mean, it's like he was part of the offseason conversation. They were saying, oh yeah, he's looking great. Coming back from injury, he's, we're still working through it, but he's ahead of where he should be, blah, 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 blah. And then there's really kind of a big nothing. Do you think that's a pretty easy cut? Do you think we're going to see more of him in the second game? I just don't know.
We'll probably see more of him in the second game, especially if we do see Wanya more predominantly at left tackle. And then you might see Niang get more opportunity at right. But yeah, I think it's going to be very tough for Lucas Niang. I truthfully do, especially with the versatility that Wanya Morris possesses. I will also say I was very pleasantly surprised with Darian Kennard. Kennard looked really good at right guard. That entire right side, when it was Morris and Kennard right there, looked really good. I get it. They're going against second and third string dudes. I understand that, but they were dominating. I was a big fan of that. And we heard about Kennard being a project coming out of Kentucky. We know he's not a high draft pick. He was originally a tackle. He wanted to try and stay a tackle. How is he going to transition to guard? Well, pretty damn good is what it looks like. Kennard, it looks like he may actually be making this team backup guard. I'm a fan of both of those guys and how they looked. Again, one preseason game, I understand maybe I'm over-exaggerating here, my optimism, but those two guys looked very impressive.
Interesting. I saw some hype on Mike Caliendo as well, who is a backup lineman signed as an undrafted free agent. He was actually teammates with Sky Moore out of Western Michigan. And so if he's looking good, remember, Nick Allegretti is back on a 1-year deal only. So if a guy like Kennard or a guy like Caliendo can step up, what you're going to have there is a potential replacement for Allegretti still on a rookie deal for a couple of years.
The one thing I will say is Nick Allegretti can play center.
True.
And that's where I think if I were having my druthers right now, I think you're going to have Allegretti, Kennard, and Wanya Morris. I think those are the three backups that I'm pretty firmly convinced are making this team.
Yeah.
I think Niang is a question mark. Prince Tega-Wanogho is a question mark. I don't think Austin Ryder. I know he was there in the preseason game. It's fun seeing him back because he has a ring with the Kansas City Chiefs, but he wasn't really that good then. He's not really good now. Yeah. He was always one of those guys that the Chiefs were trying to find a replacement for. Nothing against him personally, but just the Chiefs were always trying to find a replacement for him at center. They found when they moved on, it wasn't a huge loss. They obviously got much better with Creed Humphrey. I feel for him. I just don't see him making this roster.
No, not at all. Not at all. And when I say that about replacing Nick, I mean, I guess I'm looking at 24, 25. Like Nick's here for this year. Nick's the Wiley, the interior Wiley for this year.
Yeah.
But the Chiefs have some nice guys who could come up in 24 and beyond. Let's talk Matt Bushman. Let me ask you this. Are you buying or selling Matt Bushman as tight end 4, or are you selling the idea of tight end 4 from now on?
I am buying Matt Bushman as tight end 4, and I believe I was actually going to be buying on this before we even knew Jody Fortson was going to be placed on the IR.
Interesting.
Again, this was kind of a revelation that came to me last night. I feel for Jody Fortson. I hate seeing injuries, but I had questions and I brought it up. Jody Fortson has not been able to stay healthy, and you can't keep talking about potential. Bushman looked like he was potentially making the roster last year, and then he got injured, right? Mm-hmm. I think he had a better chance of making this team than people were giving him credit for, whether it was over Blake Bell, whether it was over Jody Fortson. I think Blake Bell's position wasn't necessarily a locked or written in stone either, because we always talk about how he brings something different to the table as a tight end, being able to be the best blocking tight end on this roster. But in the games when they needed the best blocking tight end, where was he? He was a healthy scratch. He didn't play against the Eagles. He didn't play against the Bengals. And maybe that means that we were overvaluing the value that the Chiefs would place on a blocking tight end. So I don't think Blake Bell's position was as set in stone as people might have thought either. But now with Jody Fortson going down, I think Blake Bell has the inside track. I think Matt Bushman has an inside track, and I do think they keep 4 tight ends. What do you think?
I'm not sure that anyone is guaranteed anything here other than I think Bell's a guarantee. I think Gray's a guarantee. Kelsey obviously a guarantee. And then I'm not so sure. I think the lack of a fullback helps someone here, whether that's a wide receiver, whether that's at running back, whether that's at tight end is to be determined. Perhaps even 2 guys there can count on, a 7th wide receiver and a 4th tight end. Who knows? But I like Bushman. You and I have talked Bushman before. He's been impressive. Broke his clavicle late in the preseason last year, which kind of knocked him out. That's it. He's the same age as Fortson. It's not a young guy. Just because Bushman is the newer name doesn't make him the younger name. And I think people, if they are listening to that, are like, oh yeah, let's go with the newer guy. Like, he's not younger. He's a BYU kid, which means he went and did a mission year or 2 around the world and then came back. That's why most BYU prospects are usually older. And so there's a real issue there if you're like wanting to go with the youth movement. But, like you said, look, availability is the best ability. And Matt Bushman has that. He's got good hands. So it's not like Fortson brings something that Bushman doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also say Kendall Blanton would be an outside chance of making this roster as well. Former Mizzou Tiger, known as a blocking tight end for the majority of his career. Then you saw him pop off in the Rams Super Bowl run. He all of a sudden decided to turn into, Tony Gonzalez. It was hilarious. Like, he had more yards in that playoffs and more receptions than he had like his entire NFL career. And he's kind of bounced around from the Chiefs practice squad to the Commanders practice squad, now back to Kansas City. I would just keep an eye on Kendall Blanton, although his first game, at least first preseason game this year, left a lot to be desired.
Yeah. It looks like a lot of people are kind of mixed about Bushman here as well. In the comments, Joshua Clayton says he's buying Bushman for 4. Angry Drunken German says tight end 3. I don't think we're keeping 4. Ronald Rodrigo says sell. So we got some mixed opinions here, and that makes sense. It makes sense that if you've rolled with 4, you don't know what you're going to get there. I do think this. I think if you cut Bushman, I think he has a good chance of being claimed. Like, he deserves to be on someone's 53.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why you keep Blanton around, because he's the better bet to make it back onto your own practice squad. And then if Bushman clears waivers, then you can bring Bushman on the practice squad and decide if you want Blanton too. So that's what I think. Up next, buying or selling. Deneric Prince, what'd you think of what you saw on Sunday?
I'm pushing. This is what I thought. I didn't understand everyone acting like Deneric Prince was all of a sudden going to be Marshall Faulk. Like, I just didn't get it. I understand the Chiefs hit on a 7th rounder last year, Isaiah Pacheco. That should tell you right there is probably going to reset. I'm not saying Deneric Prince won't be a fine NFL running back, but I just didn't completely buy into all of the hype. This is kind of what I thought. I know we had the post-game show and we were talking about like who was a letdown. A lot of people were saying Deneric Prince was a letdown. I'm like, he's an undrafted guy.
Yeah.
Don't be let down by that. It's going to take time. He was undrafted for a reason. I'm not selling, but I'm not buying because I was never really bought in. The reason why I'm not selling is because I was never that high to begin with. He's probably going to be the kick returner. He's probably going to be on the roster, but he's not going to get many carries. Let's be real now. It's going to be Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco played. Pacheco's getting the majority of the carries. Clyde, whatever you like, whether you like it or not, is probably going to be being used well before Deneric Prince. Then Jerick McKinnon's your 3rd down back. I don't see much left over for Deneric Prince, and frankly, that's okay.
Yeah. Boy, I'm still, it's so interesting to me to think this same front office is the one that wanted to spend a first-round pick on Clyde. Then they also had the vision to grab Pacheco. And Brett Veach even said before that draft, he said, hey, look, there are going to be guys who could rush for 1,000 yards available in the last round of this draft. And he grabbed one. So on the one hand, he looks at Clyde, he's like, that's our guy. And then on the other hand, he looks at Pacheco, he's like, that's our guy. And you're like, boy, you're a genius at one and a hack at the other. And somewhere in the middle is like, it just shows that you never know how things are going to play out. And it comes down to scheme and player and usage and all kinds of things.
It's been one preseason game. Like I just can't get there. Like to me, it's going to take time. It's a rookie. It's a running back. It's going to take time. That's why I can't buy or sell into Deneric Prince after one preseason game where he was not behind the starting offensive line. This to me is this is a push.
I think I'm buying. I think I'm going to buy. I think he's going to be okay. The Chiefs, look, here's why I'm buying on Prince. And everyone in the comments is basically selling on him.
Because 1999 was great and Little Red Corvette and Let's Go Crazy, or
dude, he's got that raspberry beret. I just think is so beautiful. And I just want his extra time and his kiss. That's what I want. Anyway, look, here's what I think. Right, there is a bevy of available veteran running backs for next to nothing. Guys like Zeke and Dalvin are signing. Fournette is still out there. Kareem Hunt is still out there. If the Chiefs felt like, oh my gosh, we're screwed, we need a little bit more depth, there are guys to go and get, but they're not. They're riding with Deneric Prince like they like him. They've said a lot of great things about him in camp. The reports have been good. I don't think that you need to worry about, like, just because he didn't show out in his first game. I think he's going to be okay. So I'm actually buying on Prince long-term. I think he's going to be just fine. I think he'll show impressively. The coaches have loved him. So, yeah, I'm buying there.
I love the comment from Angry Drunken German. The purple rain is coming. Just you wait. Imagine if he played in Minnesota. That would be the only perfect scenario. If Deneric Prince was a stud and it was the purple rain. That'd be pretty good for Deneric Prince. That could make a T-shirt.
That would be sweet. Let's move on here. Shane Buechele. Mm-hmm. Shane Buechele puts up 2 scoring drives, brings the Chiefs back in it. There were also some real mistakes there that made you go, you can't do that. You just can't make that call. When you see the overall body of work for Shane Buechele, are you buying or selling the idea that he's putting real pressure on the QB2 spot?
This is going to be another push for me. I'm sorry, it's not a hot take. And maybe it is a hot take saying it's a push here. That first half really had me worried because you can't do that and be the backup to Patrick Mahomes in an Andy Reid system. That second half was phenomenal. He made him a Holmesian type of play.
Yes.
I mean, that was something that Blaine Gabbert, Matt Moore, Chad Henne, they were not making that play, right?
Yeah.
But those first 2 throws in the first half, it's why I think Blaine Gabbert probably has the inside edge, whether we like it or not. Is as poor as Blaine Gabbert looked, and that's hard for me to say as a Mizzou guy. He didn't look good. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. Andy Reid is such an offensive mastermind, such a genius. He can go 98 yards with Chad Henne in a playoff game as his quarterback. He trusts Chad Henne on 4th down in a playoff game to pick up passing the ball, right? But you can't do that if you have a gunslinger as your backup, a turnover-prone guy as your backup, a guy who might force the ball, won't take care of the football. I think Blaine Gabbert has the inside track, whether we like it or not. You know my thoughts. I think Shane Buechele's a really fun player. I thought he was probably going to be the backup last year. I was really high on that. But until it happens, it's almost hard for me to believe it will.
Yeah. Yeah. You're probably right. I would agree with everything you say. I will say that there's nothing I've seen from Blaine Gabbert that makes me want him as QB2. I just haven't in the pros. And I know that people view him as safer, smarter, higher floor than Buechele, and you don't want to roll the dice with a backup. But you know what? I do. I want to roll the dice. I want to see the developmental guy get better. I want to develop young guys behind Mahomes. That's what I want.
Yeah.
And so
you saw the Patriots do it, and they traded Jimmy G for a bevy of draft capital. I mean, like,
yes.
if you have the Andy Reid touch and you're a quarterback, you think a team might be intrigued to trade something maybe a little greater because maybe he's going to play better in an Andy Reid. He got Nick Foles a second career.
Yep.
Like, that happened.
AJ Feely.
Kevin Cobb, baby, let's go.
Look, I think it's time. They have the first guy to try in that role. Mahomes is 27. We don't need yesterday's vanilla, dime a dozen backup just because he has the word veteran in front of him to add value here. I just don't think we need it. And what I saw on Sunday, I don't need that either from Gabbert.
While, again, I 100% agree with you. I'm not disagreeing. I said this last year. I've been saying this for a while now. Until Andy does it, I can't get there. I just can't. He likes his veteran backup. I also would say, in defense of Blaine Gabbert, he had maybe one of the best throws of the entire game. The other 7 were not ideal. That 43-yard bomb to Richie James was put right in the breadbasket.
Yep. I don't disagree, but he did not look good.
I agree.
Overall. Look, are you buying and selling Ekow Bowe-Doe?
Oh, dude, I bought. I'm buying so hard. I said before, look out for Ekow Bowe-Doe. I said going into that game, we were on the pregame show. I said he's a K-Stater. He's a Wildcat. He's a small guy. He's slender. But look out for him. And I think he showed a lot in that game. The issue is his slender size. I mean, he is a skinny dude. Is that going to be too much of a hindrance for him? In that game, you saw he had one false step back. It looked like he slipped a little bit. He was still able to make the tackle, but he really had to go for the legs and trip him up. Barely brought him down. He brought him down. But I'm buying with Ekow Bowe-Doe, but I'm almost more enthused if he was a practice squad guy this year. Let him beef up just a little bit. Let him get a little more bulky. And then I think I'd be pretty happy with Ekow Bowe-Doe going forward.
What are his chances of making the 53? Because, Johnson's out. Nick Jones just fractures multiple fingers. We don't know how many. Is it still too crowded?
I think there's a chance, especially if DiCaprio Bootle continues to play how he did. Again, I'm saying one preseason game, but didn't look good for him when everyone else was showing. Even Lamar Jackson showed and made a great play.
Yeah.
I think it's a very, very, very slim chance. I think it's a chance, but a very, very slim one. And the thing with Nick Jones is it's a fractured finger. How much is that really going to keep you out as a cornerback?
Yeah.
I don't think a ton.
Speaking of guys who we should just call by their initials, FAU. He had some impressive series. Are you buying or selling FAU as a potential starter opposite Karlaftis?
I will be selling that, at least this year. I think the future for FAU is still bright, but I think this year it's going to be Karlaftis. Whenever Charles Omenihu comes back, that's going to be week 7, correct? It's a 6-game suspension. I think Mike Dana gets the nod the first 6 games of the year. I still think a veteran signing could be in the cards for the very beginning of the year. Did I have that bet with you that Karlaftis has more sacks than Charles Omenihu? Was that with you? That was with Adam Best.
I cannot keep track.
That was with Adam Best. Sorry.
I
have a bet track keeper tally thing. It's paper and I have very bad handwriting, but that was a 5th of whiskey on that one, a 5th of bourbon, and feeling pretty good. But I'm selling him be a starter this year, FAU at least.
Okay. Going to the comments, Stacy Smith says he's buying. He looks solid on Sunday. I think he'll be a prime taxi squad target. I think he's talking about EKB instead of FAU there. FAU looked really good for our first preseason game, says Angry Drunken German. Ronald Rodriguez says he's buying it if he keeps it up in the preseason. I think he's right. I'm not sure. Mike Dana's been injured with the shoulder. Felix, look, we talk about Felix as more of a project, right? than like Karlaftis or
Yeah.
something. But there is something to be said for the fact that he's a first round project. He's not BJ Thompson. He's pro ready.
Yeah.
You know, he has things to learn. The floor is maybe lower than what you would want for a week one starter. But look, this is the same team that started L'Jarius Sneed in week one, and everyone was like, well, they are? This is crazy. And then he turns out to be like, oh, he was ready. He was coached up. He had a couple months of camp preseason, and now he's ready. So if Felix is looking good in week one of the preseason, he might be the main guy I'm watching on Saturday when we head into Injury Turf Stadium in Glendale, Arizona for week two. That's going to be something to watch there for me.
Yeah. I think, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this is all coming down to Chris Jones. If they can't get an extension done and there's no chance they have enough money to bring in a veteran pass rusher, I get all that. I'm more nervous now than I was about the state of the defensive line. I thought Charles was going to miss 2 to 4 games max. 6 games is a different story. Again, I'm not worried about end of the year. I think end of the year, you're going to see a really solid defensive line and a potential top 10 defensive unit overall, as far as the entire defense, if that's Chris Jones is there. But I'm not buying all in on FAU his rookie year this year. I'm just not. I think it's more of a project. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. But look, here's the thing. The front half of the schedule is lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a good thing that we're playing the teams that we are on the front end versus the gauntlet of contenders on the backside. That's not to say that they're not good teams. And of course, any given Sunday, and hey, we laid an egg against the Indianapolis Colts early last year. So, everything's a variable, but yeah, at the very least, I'm hoping that Felix comes across very quickly. One more here, buying or selling. Are you buying or selling on the overall concern from the poor first half showing by the Chiefs on Sunday?
Oh, dude, I'm selling. I could not be less bothered, if you will. The ones came out, and yeah, they were a little lackadaisical or lethargic, whatever you want to have. What did you think they were going to do? You think Andy Reid was going to drop some plays you've never seen before? You knew what was happening. It was Clyde Edwards-Helaire in LSU, or in Louisiana. You knew what was going on. You think Patrick Mahomes was going to slide when he knew where the first down marker was in the regular season? No, he's going to pick that up. You wouldn't even have that 4th and 1 situation. I like it too. If you're a varsity basketball player in high school and you got gym class and you got to play a game against just anyone in gym class, you get paired. You got to play against just someone who doesn't play basketball. Is that guy giving it his all, or is he basically saying, "Hey, I'm just going to try and not get injured and just knock the rust off"?
Yeah.
That's what the Chiefs did. They were knocking the rust off and tried to not get injured. I take nothing away from the ones. I take nothing away. I think they're going to be completely fine. If you're worried about the offense, they're going to put up 35 plus against the Lions without a doubt. So no, I'm not worried.
I get what you're saying. That said, there were multiple players and coaches following the game, and including up through today with Nick Bolton's comments, etc., saying, "Look, that was pitiful. We were basically stuck in sand.
Mm-hmm.
That we've got to we needed way more energy." I mean, they even said that at halftime, right? Coming at halftime, Buechele says, "Hey, the message was where's the energy, man?" So this team, at that first half that you're talking about, everyone was sluggish. Everyone looked not ready. And again, I think you could say, ready for what? It's preseason. That's exactly what preseason is for, is getting ready. You can't get ready to get ready. Yeah. So that's what they're doing. I get that. However, the overall poor showing, I think I'm a little bit more, I don't want to say concerned, because I think they're going to be fine, but I think this team surprised itself that the Super Bowl champs just can't show up out of bed and do what they were used to doing for months and months and months.
I think they can. Do you think the regular season, the first 4 plays of the game are going to be 2 screen passes to Clyde Edwards-Helaire and 2 rushes up the middle?
Nope. I'm not sharing that. I'm saying the defense was really frustrating to me. Being down 17-0, very frustrating to me. Yeah, it just looked flat. I think that's what I didn't expect. Things look flat. And Nick Bolton said today, hey, look, we're tired. Like he said, a lot of the guys' legs are just tired from training camp. So, like maybe there's some resting up to do before week 1 or whatever, but you got to build the stamina. You got to get ready. They weren't ready. And that was the difference. So, anyway, let's turn here. I want to jump over to Chris Jones because we have had some comments about Chris Jones. First of all, I want to bring this up. Our buddy John Dixon over at Arrowhead Pride. He's a great Twitter follow, and he always comes up with these. He's always got these great angles to talk about things, but he also did the research on Chris Jones and his total fines, right? Between the $50,000 per day, between the just under $500,000 for missing mandatory mini camp. At this point, and by the way, I have been wrong on this. I have been wrong. Your fines can be forgiven if you're on a rookie deal and those kinds of things. But as a veteran, Chris Jones owes this money, and he doesn't owe the money like later when he gets paid. He owes the money from the money he's already received, like right now, and he owes it to an NFLPA charity, right? So some charity out there is like, please keep holding out. Please keep holding out. And Chris Jones is going to owe them at least $1.85 million. Now, listen here. Almost $2 million already just to stay home. You could say, oh, he gets to skip training camp or whatever. But every day, he's like giving away another basically middle-class salary to charity. Now, at some point, this is going to hurt. How long can he hold out? It gets even worse if he starts missing game checks.
There's no chance. He's not missing a game check because I don't see him missing a game check. That's just absurd.
Yeah.
Because he's 29. You were coming off of your best year as an NFL athlete. You were top 3 as defensive player of the year. You were not holding out and all of a sudden thinking you're going to make more money next year. You're just not. I understand people are tired of hearing about this Chris Jones drama. We are too. And I want to dive deep into it because I'm sick of it. Okay. Because I am sick of him tweeting it out and almost getting fans' emotions involved. That's not funny. It's high school. How high school is that? You're tweeting about this stuff. And maybe I'm an old man right now. Maybe I'm in the wrong here, but we know what you want, guy. I love Chris Jones. I want to see him here in Kansas City. I want him to sign. I want him to get paid. But at the end of the day, it's so hard for fans to wrap their mind around saying, let's just say for an example, because we don't know for sure. Let's just say 26 million and 29 million. I understand that that's $3 million. Look at a $3 million house. That's a huge house. That is one every single year of that contract. I understand that. But if you're an average fan, you don't care. You don't care how much a guy gets paid. You care about Lombardis. You care about trophies. You care about the rings.
Yeah.
You care about him being there. You love Chris Jones. I love Chris Jones. But at some point, stop tweeting about it. Stop getting fans emotion. Don't like a thing about a Raiders fan saying he would look good in black and silver. What do you think that's going to do? Again, maybe I'm looking too much into this. Maybe I'm the one who's being an old man again. I get that, but I find it very childish, very high school. I don't think he misses any games. I love Chris Jones. I hope he stays, but I'm getting very frustrated with how it's being handled.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I'm with you. You just went full Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino. I get it. I like it. I like your old man, get off my lawn scenario here. But look, yeah, Jones needs to stop playing this out. Look, Angry Drunken German says, like him or hate him, Orlando Brown Jr. handled his contract stuff with class. Nothing petty, no Twitter, no negotiations to the media. He's right. Joshua Clayton agrees. I agree. Cryptic tweets and messages need to stop. I think we all agree with that. But look, he's not the only one here, right? I'm also looking at the Chiefs going, get it done.
Yeah.
Get it done. If you're throw in the extra $500,000 to go throw in the extra $1 million, instead of just saying Marin Morris, meet me in the middle here, go further and do right by a guy and get it, like, because real things are happening here. Real. Did you see Zach Martin return to the Cowboys today?
Correct. Yes, I saw that.
Zach
Jerry
Martin,
Jones bit the knee.
Zach Martin returns to the Cowboys today, and the whole place goes bananas. Players are applauding left and right, hugging him for forever. They wanted to see him back. They know, because here's the thing. They're looking at him going, we need this guy to win. We need him here as soon as possible to get our act together. We've got chemistry to form. We've got plays to practice. He's got stamina to develop. We've got things to do here, and it's called winning games. And instead of playing games, you've got to stop that to win some games. And I'm looking at Chris, and I agree with you. You got to stop playing games. And I'm looking at the Chiefs going, look, man, get rid of the distance between the two parties, capitulate a little bit, and bring them back in. The whole thing is just getting old to me on both sides.
It just sounds like it's more than 1 million. It doesn't sound like it's a million apart. It sounds like it's probably a couple. In the Quinnen Williams deal, it did no favors to anyone because that was such a wide gap. The only favor it did was for the Kansas City Chiefs, being like, hey, you can still be the second highest paid, but we're only going to pay you 25. I'm very intrigued to see how this ends up going. I will say another point here. I don't know who has more leverage. Chris Jones has the leverage of, hey, I'm a top 3 defensive player of the year candidate. Your entire defense is predicated around me. If he is there, they look like a top 10 defense. When he's not there, they look like a bottom 10 defense. The defense is that impactful, or Chris Jones is that impactful for this defense. I will also say the Chiefs have a lot of leverage. He's under contract this year. He's not going to sit out and miss $20+ million. Not only that, if they wanted to be real bleep holes, they could say, you know what? Not only are you under contract this year, we're going to franchise tag you the year after that.
Yep.
I mean, both sides have a lot of leverage. What's Chris Jones going to do? Retire? He's not going to retire.
Right.
I mean, again, at some point you have to say, hey, Chris, I get it. This is what you want. You've done everything right. Again, this is me as a fan. I want Chris Jones to get paid because he's so damn talented and he deserves it. But at the same time, you got to understand where the organization is coming from, saying, hey, you signed that contract. You have a year left on it.
Yeah,
we can franchise tag you. These are within the rules that were set by the Players Association. Yeah. It's very difficult. I understand both sides. I also want to point out Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are on team-friendly deals. Mahomes, obviously, it's tough to say team-friendly. He's on a $500 million contract, but look at the AAV. Yeah, he has more longevity and security than almost any other contract signed, more than any other contract signed in the NFL. But we know Travis Kelce is vastly underpaid. You look at it two ways. One, should Chris Jones take a pay cut because those two guys did? Or do you look at it as in, hey, Mahomes and Travis Kelce took a pay cut. That means that money can go to Chris Jones.
Yes.
So there's two different ways because you might look at it and say, hey, why are we taking pay cuts if you're not going to keep the focal point of this defense?
Right. Look, let me, I'm with you on that. And I think those guys took team-friendly deals so that guys like Jones can get paid. And you can call that selfish or whatever, but I don't. Jones deserves it. He should get it. Let me ask you something, Sterling, because I have a scenario here, and I'm not sure what you think of this. But to me, if you're Chris Jones, and look, I don't like this at all. But if you're Chris Jones, to me, it never, ever made sense to hold out. Ever. At all. It makes sense, holding in or whatever they call it, Bosa, is doing. That's fine. But look, it only makes sense to me to hold out if you really want the team to panic without you. Like your absence has to be felt. And I know it's going to cost him, but he didn't start this without considering the cost. And
Correct.
Here's what I wonder. Is it possible that Jones is holding out and waiting to see that if he could just get through week one? Let me throw this out there. What if the Detroit Lions punch the Chiefs in the mouth week one because the defensive interior is weak? Dan Campbell gets a road win over the defending champs, and now Chris Jones is looking like, oh, now you need me. Now you're going to pay your boy. Now you're going to pony up. Like, to me, it never makes sense to bet on your own absence unless you're going to go all the way and make the team feel it. And to me, that means I'm not coming back until week 1. And if I come back, you win without me, then I come back with my tail between my legs and sign for a little bit less than what I wanted. But if I gamble on me and the lack of my presence there, and you take a hit in the standings on the front end of a schedule, that may be the chance we're taking. Do you think that that's remotely what Jones could be up to?
Man, it'd be a good gamble. I mean, I don't think the Lions are as talented as Kansas City, obviously, but if you look at some offensive numbers last year, top 5 in yards and points per game, top 5 in offensive DVOA. I mean, the analytics loved the Lions and the counting stats loved the Lions. I'm not saying they're a great team, but offensively, they were electric last year.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to hold out. I don't think it behooves him. I don't think it moves the needle. I think they find a way to get it done. Again, I'm team pay Chris Jones. I'm not saying I don't want Chris Jones to get paid, and I think he deserves to be paid the second highest interior defensive lineman in the NFL. If he wants to be just around Aaron Donald, I think that's completely fair. But I do think he has to also realize his leverage is not quite what he thinks based on he's already under contract, the franchise tag. He's 29. I mean, it's a sticky situation. That's what it comes down to.
I guess that's why I brought it up, because ultimately there's no leverage. Look, honestly, if I'm the Chiefs, I play hardball. I say, you play for me this year. I'm tagging you. You're playing on that next year. I'm getting you for 2 years at, whatever it is, $54 million, whatever that total turns out to be. It's cheaper than signing him long-term. That's what I do. But that's not player friendly. That doesn't make you friends in the locker room. So I get it. But yeah.
And quite frankly, we have no idea if the AAV is the holdup. Again, I would pay the dude $30 million a year. But I'm not the GM. I would pay Chris Jones $30 million a year. I think he's that important to this defense. I also want to point out, it might not be just the AAV. It might have to do with, is it 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Yeah. Is it going to be how much is guaranteed up front? I mean, there are a lot of different, nuances when it comes to negotiating these contracts. Maybe it's only a 3-year, $30 million per year, so 3 for 90. And he's like, hey, no, I need that 4th year. He's 20. This is his last big contract. So there are a lot of nuances and intricacies that go into this that we might never know.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go to some quick comments here before we hit the must list. Stacy Smith says, we have to stop treating Jones like a bad guy for trying to be paid commensurate with his talent and production.
Sure. I agree. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think Chris Jones is a great dude.
Yeah, totally. Tom Hood says, you can't expect everyone to take a pay cut. It would be nice, but it's not reasonable.
Yes.
And Ronald Rodrigo says, Jones not practicing and getting in playing shape is the only thing that worries me at this point.
I'm not super worried about that. As Blueberry Wilbur says, Andy said that CJ's been working hard and staying in shape. It shouldn't be a problem. Maybe a little bit of game shape, if you will, just the physicality of the game. But as far as him staying in shape, I guarantee you he's been working out. He's not sitting on the couch eating chips, watching TV. He's still working out and getting after it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, folks, we've reached the end of our show, or at least right before, where we bring in our esteemed producer, Richard, for the must list, which is basically where we, at the end of every show, offer up something that has stolen our hearts, wooed us from the far places of the earth, some piece of art, something that we'd like to recommend to the masses. Richard, buddy, I'd love for you to go first. How are you doing, by the way?
I'm doing great. I'm coming off of what I believe was a positive COVID test that I took last week. So I'm feeling great, though. I'm feeling amazing, and I'm ready to list some musts.
Whoa. Have you had COVID before?
I've had it many times.
Going
to concerts does that to you. So, you take the risk. Yeah, it's going to happen.
What is more, the amount of times Richard has COVID or Ryan Fitzpatrick's teams?
Ooh.
I can't answer that for you, buddy. It's a question.
Richard's not revealing the number of times he's had COVID.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
All right. It's Richard, the mystery man. Everything is a mystery. What's your must list this week, Richard?
All right, so I think so far we've been just doing nothing but music, just trying to go through a bunch of just different genres and things that I like. I kind of couldn't figure out what I was gonna recommend today, so I'm just gonna stick with somebody who I do enjoy his music a lot. I've discovered him, or at least I got into him a few years ago. Harry Nilsson. I love this guy, singer-songwriter Harry Nilsson. He's written so many hits over the years. I think so many so that I think a lot of you guys would even just recognize them from just movies and TV and commercials. You got the Lime and the Coke song, which was just coconut for short for his. He did the Popeye soundtrack, which I was a huge fan of that movie as a kid. I used to see it and think it was a wonderful film. It's actually not that great, but soundtrack's amazing. Gotta love that Popeye soundtrack. So of course I'm buying all the Harry Nilsson stuff. It's kind of been ingrained in me. But yeah, he's an amazing singer-songwriter, amazing voice. He does this really great overdubbing for a lot of his songs. That's kind of fascinating once you start to listen to his music a lot. So yeah, Harry Nilsson, check him out if you just want to hear some good old-fashioned pop rock, or I don't know what you'd call him, but yeah, I love the Nilsson. I love the Schmielson.
Didn't he die fairly recently?
I believe in the 90s. Yeah, he passed away from a heart attack.
Oh, never mind.
Tragic.
I was thinking like in the last 3 to 5 years.
No.
All right, never mind. Maybe I'm thinking of Nielsen, someone else. My neighbor.
Company that does makes track of how many people listen or watch something, the Nielsen ratings.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of the Nielsen
Maybe that's
ratings
just
that died 5 years ago, something like
Those
that.
are gone.
Anyway, Sterling, what do you got?
First thing, I had a chance to sit down with Jamar Chase today. Very, very cool. Had a chance to interview Jamar Chase. If you guys are listening, want to check it out, go to Stacking the Box. That's a podcast that I also do here. It's with Fansided as well. But I had a chance to have Jamar Chase on, ask him a couple Chiefs questions as well. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm tweeting out a couple clips at HomestretchKC. But it was really cool getting to talk to Jamar this morning. But the thing that I am going to recommend is Wolf Mother, the album by the band Wolf Mother.
I love
Came out
that.
in 2005. Andrew Stockdale has an incredible voice. This album from top to the bottom was just phenomenal. Dimension starts off kick-ass song, White Unicorn. Ooh, a little fun, right? A little slow it down a bit. Then Woman. Great song. Obviously, it has Joker and the Thief. That's a great song here. Colossal, Mind's Eye, Pyramid. I mean, the list goes on and on. That album I thought was outstanding. So couldn't recommend Wolf Mother by Wolf Mother anymore.
Man, I remember liking that album a lot when it came out. It's interesting that you bring that back up.
It's a classic.
I haven't thought of that for a long time. So my must list, my wife and I are 3 episodes in. HBO's The Leftovers. Have you guys seen this show?
I've heard good things about it. I think Patrick Allen is a huge fan of this, so
I
should talk to you about it.
I've always heard good things about it. I have no idea really what's going on. The show is maddening. It's the premise of the show is that 2% of the world's population has disappeared in some sort of rapture type event, some event, and the way that the rest of the people who end up left on Earth end up dealing with the loss of these people and the emotional toll, the social upheaval. It's just kind of crazy. We're 3 episodes in and I'm angry and mad, or I'm mad and sad and it draws you right in and you feel all the things. And we get done. I'm I can't watch another one. And then I'm I can't wait to watch another one. And that's kind of what the best shows do. It's when you watch Breaking Bad or some of those other shows that kind of really get you and you're I'm not sure where this is going, but I'm in for the ride. So, yeah, HBO has a ton of those kind of shows and I just never took the ride on The Leftovers. So we're on it now.
If you want to cry, do Matt Connors. If you want to have fun, do Richards. If you want to rock out, do your boys. This was the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Matt Connor, make sure you follow him on Twitter, Matt Connor AA1. It feels glorious being back with you boys. I miss you guys a lot. I was out there in Colorado. My nose was very, very it wasn't fun. It's very, very dry. Colorado,
you need a Sherpa.
Very, very, very overrated, maybe some may say. The football team, definitely my chins. But I will say thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, for listening, for commenting. If you guys want to do us a huge favor, like this video, wherever you get your podcast, give us a like, give us a review. That does mean a lot. Hit the like on the stream and subscribe as Richard is showing you. If you want to hit the little arrowheadaddict.com/bets, you want to scan that, you want to win some money, there you go. Until next time, we're out of here.